Hello, everyone, and welcome back yet again to Crypto's News. It is me, your host, Omar Bam, and it's really a pleasure to be able to come back and be with you because for a moment, it looked like it wasn't going to be the case since I was banned from YouTube about a week ago. If you haven't heard, I've streamed twice on Odyssey and 3Speak, which I finally got to explore as alternatives to YouTube after it looks like my channel was taken down for violating scam, spam, and misleading terms of service, and those violations led to me not even receiving a warning or any sort of strike on my YouTube channel, just flat out having it removed. All that I worked for with the relaunch of the show to get it to 1,000 subs with you guys completely wiped away. And I'll have to admit, this last week has been a pretty bad low for me. I've felt like absolute crap. I felt like YouTube did not care after trying to put forth an appeal, and it looked like it was completely rejected, if not at first ignored, but after making a stint on Twitter, Team YouTube on Twitter said they'd look into it, and they said it looked like I indeed violated the scam, spam, and deceptive practices. But looks like, lo and behold, yesterday I got a response where it looks I'll be able to join you guys again, and here we are. So, hi Crypto, we're pleased to let you know that we've recently reviewed your YouTube account, and after taking another look, we can confirm that it is not in violation of our terms of service. We have lifted the suspension of your account, and it is once again active and operational. So it looked like I was literally going to lose it if it hadn't been for one of the followers. So thank you to this individual, this saint out there who's looking out for us to make sure that we can keep bringing you crypto content. When they had written to me when they saw that my appeals were just not going through, as I was documenting this on Twitter. Hey man, this is Appify Your Business. Hey man, I happen to have some contacts inside of Google. We are submitting an internal request to have someone actually review your channel. This has to be a mistake, and I'll let you know how they reply. I'm a longtime follower, but I mainly watch and do not contribute much to the convo, so a lurker, but there's some really good angels out there. Anyway, surprise, yesterday, before I even found out, this person said that they had received this internal message. Thanks for reaching out. This was mistakenly terminated my YouTube channel for spam and has been reinstated. deleted. Formal message: we count on our community members to know our community guidelines and to flag content they believe violates them. So it looks like a community member might have flagged me. We review all flagged content quickly, and if we find that a video does violate the guidelines, we remove it. We also have a team that is dedicated to identify and removing spam from YouTube. Occasionally, a video flagged by users or identified by our spam team is mistakenly taken down. When this is brought to our attention, we review the content and take appropriate action, including restoring videos or channels that have been removed. So clearly an algorithm issue. The problem was I almost got completely wiped away here. And back when I had over 100,000 subscribers on my old channel, they give you a separate support line, let's call it, with YouTube and Google once you get to that kind of bracket where people actually do pay attention to you. For what I'm finding out, it looks like, according to Appify here, Team YouTube on Twitter might not even be real. It looks like it might be an AI with just some occasional manual people who are responding to some posts. But it looks like I was pretty much going to just be screwed and lose my channel after all that work. And I'm not gonna lie, I was gonna keep going, but my heart felt like it wasn't in it over the last week. I just felt like it was not being valued to put my content up here. And I did need to have I was on track to hopefully make some sort of monetization happen again on YouTube, and that was getting removed. But luckily, I had the Odyssey team helping me out and showing me how to upload and stream there. But it wasn't the easiest, I'll admit. It's made, however, huge grounds, and I know that as an alternative to YouTube, I'll always have that available to me. Odyssey library as another option. But it just didn't seem like it was going to be worth the amount of time and effort that at least at this time, that it takes for me to make these videos and stream. And with 3Speak, they don't even have live streaming. And it took some time for both platforms to get the videos up, and a lot of more manual work than with YouTube, which is just leagues ahead when it comes to how I can make my workflow happen. So I was nice, however, to explore these platforms and see how they've grown so much, and see that they could be viable competitors to YouTube, especially for smaller time content creators who are constantly being banned for reasons I found out that, again, just like with me, might not even be valid. So what an experience, but thank God that we got the channel back. So thank you all for joining me here and for yet again being back. And for those of you who have reached out in support and sent me messages and alternatives and ways to proceed and showed me that you cared about this content regardless of what platform I put it on. Although I do realize that a lot of people do prefer to watch on YouTube, whether they're just used to that platform, they don't trust other websites, they have their YouTube premium memberships, and so much else. I've always had this as my primary platform, and my goal has always been to reach people. And so if the people want to get it on whatever platform, I'm happy to be there. And it looks like this is still the most popular one based on a poll. So anyway, we're back, and I want to thank Appify Business, and again, those of you who have supported me along this while we getting out there. And it looks like we might be safe now from some sort of flagging after this manual review. I believe that puts us in some sort of other category. So it's nice in a way that we had this battle early on in the relaunch of the show. Anyway, as I get back on track with things, it looks like the market has broken since I've left. What's going on with the prices, guys? What did you guys... kidding. But yeah, we're having some down days, actually. We've had about 4 days of south for the prices. I think it's nice to see things go back somewhat, although we did break some crucial support levels here. I mean, near-term support levels. So Ethereum is down below $2,000, as you can see, at 1835. So now pretty much the support is between about 1450 to 2,000. It looks like we might be in that range for a little while. It would be nice to see the lows getting higher, however. And Bitcoin is still over $20,000, but it would not be out of imagination to see it head down and retest those levels around $21,000. Ideally, we would like to see, of course, Ethereum breach $2,000, $2,100 in the near term. And I think Ethereum has been the main boy here. It's climbed over the last month about 50% relative to Bitcoin. So it's been a really nice trade ratio-wise. And Bitcoin just hasn't really done too much to outperform here. Again, just keeping track with Ethereum for the most part is what I'm saying. And for the most part, it also looks like it's following the macro atmosphere. We had stocks finish flat, if not down today. the Fed came out and had some sort of commentary. They were talking about how there might be some more rate hikes coming up, more unloading of the balance sheet, but they would like to see the interest rates get to a certain level, and it might not be too far away. And then they'll probably leave the interest rates there for a while to see how that affects things. So this was originally seen as something that was going to be hawkish, and then it switched over after market into something that was seen as more dovish, and that could be something good for markets, especially risk markets like cryptocurrencies. So that's pretty much what I'm seeing here. Ethereum still looking strong on the week, up 8.1%. And I, again, wouldn't be too surprised to see the prices go down a little bit more, especially at these levels, before testing more to the upside for the near term. Of course, we still have the merge coming up, some huge things in regards to that, but there's been a lot of FUD being thrown out there. It talks about how the Bitcoin maximalists are the ones really blowing things out of proportion. This has a lot to do with what happened with Tornado Cash and the sanctioning, and how some of the front ends and some of the companies like Uniswap have been approaching these sanctions that took place that I covered in the last video, which hopefully that video wasn't the reason that I lost my channel. It was covering something that was privacy helpful to individuals. I mean, it looks like I was really the only one that might have been targeted, so hopefully that wasn't the case for that. But anyway, it was a situation that led to front ends like Uniswap's possibly just not allowing for some transactions to go through without going directly to smart contracts. This has evolved recently into something else involving MEV boosters, so for ways for basically validators to use middleware in order to boost the profits that they can make. Some of the most popular ones, for example, are flash bots, which are open sourcing. We found out 8 hours ago, which could be a good thing. And right now, the name of the other one, the primary one, is escaping me. But there are a few options there as relays for these MEV boosters. But there's a possibility that these MEV booster middleware that are ran for higher profits might be at the protocol level censoring some of these OFAC transactions. And so this has evolved into perhaps being even bigger than it should be, with some saying, wow, this is huge. It's going to show just how possible it is to censor Ethereum, and how, I don't even want to participate anymore in Ethereum if there is the possibility for the state to basically censor transactions. Like, how different are we from what we were trying to fight in the first place? And these are all valid things. I think some of what's been going on and being covered is being covered here by Giulio Rubaffo in this post here on Twitter. So let me share it with you. It gives us a little bit more information in regards to what's going on. In the past week, a lot has happened, especially regarding regulations, and the situation looks dire and borderline desperate, worse than you actually think it is. First, let's reiterate what happened. U.S. Treasury sanctioned Tornado Cash, which is an Ethereum mixing service whereby you could put some ETH in there, it gets mixed with other addresses ETH, and you get your ETH back after a certain amount of time, but it's been mixed with, and therefore it doesn't look completely linked to you anymore. A way to kind of hide, I guess, your coin's transaction history for whatever purpose. It could be nefarious, it could be perfectly reasonable to try to hide how much wealth you have from others who are trying to scrape for information and so on. I mean, there are valid reasons to do this, but anyway, this is a smart contract, not one individual. Although someone was arrested for this, one of the developers. Although I'm hearing all sorts of stuff. Maybe he was arrested, Alexei, because he was making money off the Torn tokens, the Tornado tokens that existed in the background, and therefore he was profiting by helping develop an open source smart contract, and that's why he was going to prison, and the Dutch government was locking him up. But anyway, we haven't heard officially why he was being charged. Although we're hearing that it might be related to the fact that he wasn't erased or arrested for writing code. It was for writing code that could be dangerous, that could allow for money laundering and criminal activities to take place, which is really weird, again, because so many things exist like the internet which are coded, which criminals can still use, but the internet is not illegal. But anyway, so along with the sanction, arrested Alex Pertsev, one of the devs. This led to other U.S. organizations to also employ sanctions, such as Aave and Uniswap. In the case of Aave and Uniswap, the sanctions were put on the front end, so like the website that you type to go into, not the smart contract itself, of course. So damage was limited, and you could consider it a small victory for Ethereum. However, most Ethereum staking pools, think about like Coinbase, who runs a staking pool where so many people deposit ETH, and this gives Coinbase more influence. You could say more of a vote. They have more weight and more clout behind the direction the Ethereum network goes. However, most Ethereum staking pools and validators are also based in the US and are operating at the base layer, so they might have to follow US rules, of course, and US sanctions. And this is really bad, as you can circumvent a front end, but not the protocol itself. If these validators who are processing the blocks decide to not include blocks with sanctioned transactions, we could see mass financial censoring and people being locked out of their wallets. But that's not even the worst part. I mean, okay, well, like, for example, there's been this whole movement about what if we just spit a bunch of ETH that has touched the Tornado mixer to as many people as possible. There was a recent movement to try to spam these kinds of transactions, like 0.1 ETH to everybody who had on Twitter a username that ended in .eth. So basically sending them all some of this mixed tokens that were touched by Tornado, therefore they would be blacklisted, and this could affect so many celebrities, Vitalik Buterin himself, everybody else who suddenly couldn't transact and would be censored out of US. I mean, you name it. Anyone who basically wanted to censor these transactions. Anyway, that's not even the worst part. What if US validators decide to treat sanctioned transactions as non-canonical because they are instructed to? This could lead to a chain split. So this is a talk about fork that's been going around, some possible fork of two divergent histories where you have the history that believes in the OFAC sanctions and censors these transactions, those who don't. This could lead to a chain split, as 66% of validators are ran in the US and would create two Ethereums. But now you may say, oh, well, social consensus will choose the non-OFAC or the non-censored Ethereum. And maybe Billy, the home staker, will think of choosing non-OFAC Ethereum because Billy is angered. But what about USDC and USDT and the entirety of DeFi? Well, would they go to war with the U.S. government? The answer is no, and they will make it because they're ran by companies, right, like Circle and Tether or iFinix, whatever, and they will make it so you won't be able to redeem USD Tether and USDC on the non-OFAC chain, thus leading to massive liquidations and complete destruction of the whole DeFi ecosystem in the non-OFAC chain. Arguably the whole DeFi ecosystem, because it wouldn't be really decentralized, in my opinion, by that point anyway. Now, what will Billy the home staker say to that? Will Billy choose the now more stable OFAC chain where the ecosystem is not destroyed, or will he choose the now unusable non-OFAC chain? If I were Billy, I would rather choose the OFAC chain instead of risking slashing. So losing some of the rewards or deposits of ETH from the validators being ran by Billy. This will happen not because Billy hates privacy, but rather because his IQ is higher than 20, and he knows that the most important thing that Ethereum has is the ecosystem, the various nodes, the exchanges, everything else. Without it, he would rather buy Bitcoin. Also, I'm expecting the STF to ETH to crash in the coming days in this scenario amid uncertainty, as I doubt they would choose to be censorship resistant. A possible solution to mitigate and possibly avoid this doomsday scenario could be implementing the shutterized beacon chain design, which was put up by Kopelman. He's a guy who created Circle's UBI, something I covered, I think it was like in 2018, about these trust line tokens that you could create. You could basically tokenize yourself and the value that you provide and all of this. But anyway, it's a possible solution to basically encrypt transactions before they end up in the block, so that way they could happen before being censored. Another possible solution is to not stake with US, I think this is a typo, with US staking pools to prevent such a dire scenario. Said that, don't be mistaken, proof of work has the same problem since the majority of miners are US based, so please don't even comment by saying that proof of work is better. Now, the issue, of course, is if there's some sort of decision that the major whales decide, who are not US based, to basically, for example, screw Coinbase customers out of this, resulting in slashing. Is it right that basically something like this could go through before Coinbase customers are allowed to withdraw? So maybe the withdrawal for Ethereum that's locked for Ethereum 2.0 we should expedite that to allow people to better vote with their money and decide better where to put their tokens, what kind of pools to better incentivize more distributed staking of Ethereum away from the exchanges who would have to comply with these OFAC transactions. So this is some of the drama that's been playing out. As I'm trying to cover a lot right now in a video that's rather brief, but this is some of the FUD that's going on. Now, Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, was pinged along with others by Lefteris, who had a question for Lido, Coinbase, Kraken. If regulators ask you to censor at the Ethereum protocol level with your validators, will you A, comply and censor, in fact, at the protocol level, or will you B, shut down the staking service and preserve network integrity? So prior to making this video, just about an hour, now 2 hours ago, it looks like ago now, Brian Armstrong did respond to Lefteris when he said, it's a hypothetical we hopefully won't actually face. But if we did, we'd go with B, I think. So shutting down the staking service instead of just continuing it, got to focus on the bigger picture, which is freedom of economics to allow more and more people to access the new financial world and to be able to interact without censorship and everything else. This is part of Coinbase's mission. Of course, they still have to abide by regulation, so better to just shut down the staking service altogether. There may be some better options, C, or a legal challenge as well that could help reach a better outcome. And Coinbase is not averse to legally challenging things, which is nice to see that they're actually following their mission. So this is something being seen as very positive in regards to a lot of the FUD that we've been hearing recently, that the exchanges really are going to have no choice. They're not going to shut down their staking service and lose out on their 25% cut that they get for the rewards that are generated there, or Lido with their 10% cut. So this could be a real problem for Ethereum ultimately. If you do want to continue to stay bullish, of course, about Ethereum, and I think what better time than now, right? When prices are going down, generally you want to be buying, not a recommendation to buy, as always, do like to remind you. But generally, I think these networks continue to accrue value, some of the more popular ones out here, including Ethereum and Bitcoin over the longer term. So we had Arthur Hayes with another blog post. Trust me, I'm not going to read the entire thing like I've done recently, so don't worry about that. But I encourage you to check it out for yourself. It's called ETH Flexive. He was the CEO of BitMEX. I don't know that he is anymore himself, but he still writes these essays, and I've been covering these, but he's become a hardcore Ethereum shill, I guess you could say, during these. And I will read a little bit of this one just so you can get, just as a reminder of how the merge is something to look forward to, because he's basically showing here ways to profit off of what's going to be coming around the merge. Either if you want to go short or long, he's giving some advice or ways that you can approach this in regards to futures, options, or just spot towards the bottom. But he starts by saying, I'm currently reading Alchemy of Finance by George Soros, and it inspired me to write this stream of consciousness piece about my macro thesis regarding, thanks 10 pence, regarding the ETH merge. Soros is the GOAT when it comes to macro investment, so investing, so the greatest of all time. Acolytes of his, such as Paul Tudor Jones and Stan Druckenmiller, are superstars in their own right, but they owe a lot of their success to the strategies and principles elucidated by Soros over the years. Alchemy of Finance presents a fascinating philosophical discussion about what drives markets. And if you are serious about the craft of managing your own or others' money, it's a must-read. Soros' central theory, which he dubs the theory of reflexivity, is that there is a feedback loop between market participants and market prices. The basic idea is that market participants' perception of a given market situation will influence and shape how that situation plays out. The expectations of market participants influence market facts, or so-called fundamentals, which in turn shape participants' expectations, and so on and so forth. To put it even more simply, the participants, consciously or not, often play a major role in bringing about the future they speculate on. Their biases can reinforce a rising or falling price trend because the future becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's a very short and incomplete explanation of the theory of reflexivity, but I'll explain in more detail as we go on. For now, let's bring this back to crypto and how it relates to the merge. So I just wanted to show you a little bit there about what he's talking about, this positive reflexivity, which he finishes wrapping up at the end of this. But either the merge happens or it doesn't. That is a future event that we are trading. The merge itself is unaffected by the price of ETH and will succeed or fail solely based on the skills of the Ethereum core developers. The merge will do two things. And by the way, this is coming up, the merge now. I haven't mentioned on the show since I wasn't able to stream on my main channel here, my channel, which was terminated. But September 15th is the date that we're looking forward to now for the merge as the official date. So nice to hear that. The merge will do two things. It will remove the proof of work ETH emissions on each block. The ETH that was being paid to miners in exchange for the computation power they provide to maintain the network, to form the blocks, to solve puzzles, At present, these emissions total 13,000 ETH per day. The merge is expected to replace these 13,000 daily ETH emissions to miners with a much smaller emission once we get the merge of approximately 1,000 to 2,000 ETH per day. That will instead go to network validators, the folks who are staking ETH, who receive more ETH in exchange for helping determine which ETH transactions are valid and which are not. These emissions will occur at the same rate regardless of the price of ETH and the Ethereum network's usage. And two, a certain amount of gas fees will be burnt every block, meaning the ETH used to pay these fees will be permanently removed from circulation. This variable depends on the usage of the network. The usage of the network is a reflexive variable, which he explains more later. Then he goes more into how you can label Ethereum as inflationary or deflationary. Basically, if the emission per block is higher than the gas fees that are burnt, then that's inflation. And if the block emissions are less than the gas fee burnt, then that's deflation. He goes into Google search and how it's very correlated, 0.77 R. So they're very tied together, how much people search for Google, through Google for Ethereum versus the price and climbing and so on. But anyway, I think it's really interesting. I read today that, for example, you have to have $500 million coming in to ETH, every single day in order for the ETH price just to stay at the same level because of the amount that's being sold. Whereas after the merge, it's only going to be $9 million that has to be coming in to buy. So that's something that alone is just super bullish for the price. And this will, regardless of what happens in the short term around the merge, before or slightly after, in the long term, this should fundamentally be quite huge for the price of ETH, as this is like a halvening, right? Everybody knows what's going to happen with the halvening, but still, it tends to rise the Bitcoin price after it happens anyway because of some of the fundamentals that used to take place with Bitcoin during the past halvenings. And likely it could be the same thing happening with Ethereum, with this huge amount of ETH that suddenly is not being, I guess, wasted for security that might not be necessary for the Ethereum network. I'm also reading some estimations that perhaps with Ethereum, for example, you have the miners right now, they're out there mining and validating transactions. In order to pay for the massive electricity costs, they have to sell perhaps something like 75% of the ETH that they mint just to keep their business afloat. But now, without having those costs, these validators, even after withdrawals are enabled, just simply won't have to sell for these huge electrical costs. And so why would they, with something to generate some sort of income? So this is something that's also quite bullish. And let me finish here with how he wraps up this post. So writing essays is a great way for me to really think through my trades and ultimately bolster my confidence in the positioning of my portfolio. I like how he thinks. If I can't logically explain the thinking behind the construction of my portfolio, which to me just seems to be ETH, right? Figure out ways to go long ETH. Then I need to re-examine my trading decisions. During the process of writing past essays, I have altered my portfolio significantly and lost faith in previously held beliefs because I couldn't defend them well in written prose. My attempt at applying Soros's theory of reflexivity to the ETH merge increased my confidence. So basically, he had spoken about how you just have these feedback loops that positively continue to make Ethereum climb in value and worth. You have adoption of the network, bringing more and more developers because they want to be in the place where they can reach the most users and where the most applications are, or where the users go. These kind of networks effects just kind of build on each other to keep Ethereum kind of at the top at this time. I question what I should do leading into the merge, and after putting these thoughts down on proverbial paper, I know what to do: buy the freaking dip. So that's pretty much what he's going to be doing. Not too much of a surprise based on some of the recent posts that we've read from Arthur Hayes. But yeah, we will move forward here. I hope you guys are enjoying the show, and I invite you to hit the like button. Third time's a charm. Thanks, George, for being back. Yeah, it's good to be back with you guys again. Again, it was feeling just really low and feeling better. It was some good news finally yesterday, getting the channel back. So it looks like Celsius, just to run through some quick news here, Celsius, according to a hearing that took place, has been approved to continue mining Bitcoin and selling that Bitcoin, because we know Celsius had apparently taken customers' funds and whatever money they had raised to open up suddenly a Bitcoin mining operation, and that still is apparently running in the background, although it's debatable as to whether it's profitable or not from what I'm reading. And it was a question as to whether they would be allowed to, according to the court, continue to operate their mining operations, which they petitioned the court to allow to do in order to raise money to eventually pay back creditors. And it looks like Chief Bankruptcy Judge Martin Glenn of the Southern District of New York has approved Celsius' request to continue running their Bitcoin mining operations and selling that Bitcoin as a means to reinstate financial stability. Although Simon Dixon did point out that we recently found out, that it looks like Celsius is burning money really, really quickly. If some of you missed this a few days ago when this tweet came out, what was this? Yeah, August 15th. It looks like Celsius, and this is in the millions, is on track to go into the red and just be insolvent completely and not have any liquidity by October 2022. So I don't know how Celsius can save themselves from the situation. They're burning huge amounts of money. They had even tried to rehire their CFO at a huge amount of money. I can't even remember what the salary was, but it was pretty obscene. And that got denied. Basically, after the stint, a huge stink started being made, and I had covered that news that they were trying to hire. They decided not to do that. Anyway, it's like they're trying to look like the good guys while really so far not doing much to really help the average guy. I just hope that proceedings continue, and Celsius has said that that's what they want to do, to make these things happen as hasty and quickly as possible, to make sure that there's still some money left for people who've lost money here at Celsius. But from what I'm reading, it's just not been looking so great. Celsius is going to apparently be providing a more serious plan we're going to be hearing about that's locked in September, right around the beginning of September. So we'll wait to hear what comes of that. And Buenos Aires, we found out from the ETH Latam conference that just took place in Buenos Aires. It looks like Buenos Aires in Argentina is going to be running Ethereum nodes by 2023, according to Diego Fernandez, the Secretary of Innovation and Digital Transformation for the city. So the city is interested in exploring Ethereum and running their own nodes to look and research the Ethereum blockchain to see how to better regulate the network. Cool. I'm all for more adoption by the nation states who want to hang on, as long as they're not trying to censor transactions and close the vice grip on things here. Although Argentina arguably is a lot smaller than the impact of some sort of sanctions from the US. Ultimately, just to touch on that thing again, people are saying, for example, well, if Ethereum is censored at the protocol level, why wouldn't Bitcoin be as well? Why wouldn't exchanges also have to blacklist those? I don't know. And others have brought up that this is all being overblown, all of this sanction stuff around Tornado, a mixing service. It shouldn't be too surprising that a mixing service is being sanctioned after you had Blender back in April, I believe it was, of this year, which is a Bitcoin mixing service getting shut down. So we should have known that Tornado was going to be targeted afterwards, as the regulators, the Treasury, they want to crack down on money laundering and any options to allow that. Personally, I'm all about freedom. I'm just trying to share both sides of the argument with you guys. Where was the other thing that I had heard? Oh, I guess I forgot to pull that up here. The other thing I want to show you guys, let me see if I believe I had tweeted here, was in relation to Canada. Yeah, there we go. New regulatory changes in Canada are taking place for crypto. This was originally, I found this in this tweet by Mo. You were allowed to buy as much Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash in certain provinces in Canada, but you can't buy shit coins. You can't buy other coins that are not these four in amounts that are greater than 30,000, I guess, Canadian dollars net per year. So the source came from an exchange called Newton, and Newton had talked about some of these new regulations coming out on behalf of the Ontario Securities Commission, and it looks like the Canadian Securities Administrators. So basically the SECs that exist in Canada. And so there are now going to be net buy limits if you are in certain provinces, including New Brunswick, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, Nunavut, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, Northwest Territories, Ontario, Prince Edward Island, Saskatchewan, and Yukon, you will not be able to buy anything in these four cryptocurrencies in amount greater than $30,000. And this will not impact you if you are in Alberta, British Columbia, Manitoba, or Quebec. So after a year, this resets again the $30,000 limit. And if you sell some of that $30,000, some of those shit coins, then you can buy that back in since it's a net amount there. So wanted to bring that up. I think that is interesting. Some are saying this just gives validation to whatever. Pick one of those four coins that you like. Yeah, it gives my Bitcoin Cash credibility. But it's also taken it's caused the opportunity for different communities to fight on each other. Like, why is Litecoin on there? If the regulators really want to protect customers, and why is Litecoin up there? Well, I don't know, but I know that the Litecoin network does not go down 5 times a year, unlike some network, and it arguably has some of the longest history, just like Bitcoin Cash and just like Ethereum, and networks continue to operate just fine. So, and they don't look like they're going to be going to $0 anytime soon. Something that Arthur Hayes also argues for in relation to Ethereum. Even if the merge doesn't happen, he, for example, says that Ethereum likely won't go below $800,000 because it's gotten to this point even without the merge narrative, because people bought Ethereum without realizing that it was going to be moving to proof of stake or how that would be working. They just bought it because numbers go up for some other reason. Anyway, that is pretty much the show that I have for you guys today. I hope you've taken something away, and I hope you consider adding something since I cannot cover everything down in the comments down below. Let me know what news I missed. Let me know what I might have missed in regards to something that I covered here, something that you want to add. I always appreciate reading what you have to say. I read every single comments, and I love each and every one of you. Thank you again for the support, and I'll finish with a quote of the day. This one's super meaningful for me, especially when I've had those lows recently. You never know where life is going to take you. So everything I do, says Kyle Massey, I just take it one day at a time, and it always leads you to the right place. I do feel like you are where you're meant to be. I don't know. I love you guys. Take care. Much love, and stay cryptic. Peace.